Welcome to South Jersey Business Connect, presented by the Burlington County Regional Chamber of Commerce. I'm Kristi Howell, President and CEO of the Chamber, here with Bryan Hornung, President of Exact IT Solutions and our sponsor for this year. Behind every business in our region is a person with a story, a challenge they solved, a community they serve, a reason they got started. Every month, Bryan and I are here to share those stories, smart strategies, standout businesses, and a community that ties it all together. These are conversations that connect, grow, and inspire.
Welcome, everyone, to our Strategies for Success segment with Curtis Myers, President of Aspire Youth Development. Curtis, tell us about Aspire Youth Development. What do you guys do over there?
Thanks, Bryan. Aspire Youth Development is a training organization that really focuses on getting the young professionals ready, the young workforce ready for the jobs of today and tomorrow. So not only recruiting them, training them, helping to find career pathways, preparing them with pre-apprenticeships and additional training to make sure that they're ready so that when employers are looking for good talent, they not only have the skills that they need, but they also have the workforce competencies that make them good employees.
Okay, thanks. So how do these internships help companies out there?
Yeah, I think internships are huge, right? Because when you think about a company, when you hire people, that's a big investment. And an internship can get you to really screen your talent better before making a bigger investment with them. I think it also benefits companies because obviously when interns come in, they have an energy and excitement to try to do well. And you want to give them the kind of opportunities where they can showcase their skills that can also make your bottom line better by pulling your some of the tedious tasks away or maybe some special projects away that you really need somebody else to focus on. And I think interns bring that energy that can really help a business thrive.
Yeah, and that definitely can be true. And then on the flip side, the interns, what do they get out of this experience?
I think for interns, when you really think about it, when you study something in school or you have in your mind what a job looks like or what a career pathway, it's very rarely not accurate, right? But when you actually get a chance to work in that environment and you see like, oh, this is what it means to work in a law office, and this is the kind of work that they actually do, or this is what this is what a day in the life really looks like. I think that helps them. It also helps them to really understand where their academic knowledge is helpful, but how they have to transition that into like real world, the business community.
So what is a typical engagement look like with a company? How long would that typically last for one of your interns?
Yeah, I think there's different kinds of internships. So I think the low-hanging fruit is basically like a job shadow. Maybe have some students come in for part of a day, half a day, and just kind of get a feel for like, hey, this is what you guys do here. This is the kind of work that maybe I could be a part of. This is what required in that pathway. I think a good internship should be at the minimum between 4 to at least 6 weeks as the bottom line. And between the employer and the intern deciding the number of hours or weeks that works. But that gives you some time to do some meaningful work because it takes a little bit just to learn exactly what do you need me to do, then to actually be able to do it and to have a level of some mastery of it that would show for you guys as an employer. Yeah.
Curtis, I'm going to chime in a second. Talk about soft skills, which I've now heard are being called essential skills. But
yes.
How does that help with those? Because some of these young people, they've never been in the workforce before.
I think, so it's funny because the phrase has moved, like you said, from soft skills to essential skills. And I've even called them critical skills, right? There's a lot of research that says most people aren't separated from jobs or fired because they can't do the job skill-wise. They just can't work with other people. And the essential skills are so important because doing the task is only part of it, but showing up on time, having the proper attitude, effective communication, dealing with conflict in the workplace, having some sense of emotional intelligence. This is all the stuff that everybody expects you to know, but no one puts it in a job description, and no one really trains you on how do you have these professional essential skills. You're just assumed to know that when we say show up at 9 o'clock, that means 8:45, and you've got to learn each environment, each culture of a company. There's those unwritten rules that say, hey, we only take a half an hour for lunch and we generally eat at our desk, or learning how to manage different personality types. I think helping young people especially, but even quite honestly, adults, older people understand it's how we work together, not just the work we do.
Yes.
And I think those essential skills are important because they're just not taught, but they're actually caught over time. But in you learning them, sometimes it will cost you promotions, positions, and opportunities. And so we can front load it and help these young people think, hey, these are the unwritten expectations of work, and this is how you should handle it. And this is how you should even ask some questions so you understand what's the work environment, what's the culture in this particular place.
Yeah, it's really good insight to give somebody who's never worked in an organization, to give them the awareness of differing cultures and how you may fit or not fit in that world. I tell you, when I was in college, I had an internship, and it saved me, my parents, and obviously when I was going early years into college, they want me to be a certain career, and I'm trying to follow that path, and went into accounting, got an accounting internship, and I'm like, it took me about 4 months into it to decide this isn't going to be for me for the next 40 years. I don't see it. And I made that call to change to IT, and here I am, right? So,
and I think that's a very important part because I think sometimes we only consider an internship successful if the young person becomes a full-time employee. But sometimes learning what you don't like is as important as learning what you do like, or being able to find the nuances in your career pathway. You might think you want to be in IT, but as you intern in this particular environment, maybe it's more project management IT,
That's right.
not necessarily the technical side. So it's helping internships give people that opportunity to kind of kick the tires a little bit and learn.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting, right? Because over the years, going back to when we were in college and things like that, right? Teachers got hands-on training, nurses get hands-on training, but we didn't do it in the business community, right? So these internships are now really broadening all of that.
Yeah, I think that's important because, like I said, there's just so much that you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and you have limited knowledge. I remember going to school and some of my friends, I'm dating myself, but a lot of my friends that wanted to become attorneys were, they love to show LA law. But no attorney will tell you, that's not how it looks in the real world, right? So when you intern, you get a chance, this is really what lawyers do. That's what they spend a lot of their time doing. And it's not the glamorous courtroom scenes. And so I think the ability to learn those things in the business community, and when you think about it, how many people can name jobs and job vocations, right? They can only think about a handful. So even if you went to work for an accounting firm, you say, well, I want to be an accountant, right? But you don't even know what accounting looks like, what the different types of accounting and the different types of clients that you have to work with, whether it's governmental accounting, whether it's forensic accounting. There's so many different aspects that it's wow, I didn't know all of that was there. I thought it was just accounting.
Credits.
Yeah, debits and credits, right? I thought it was just this simple, but you can learn so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Exact, we had to learn the hard way with interns, right? That you can't just hire an intern and not really have a plan for them. Yeah. So it is important that an employer understand a few things, I think. One is what's a good kind of role or situation to put an intern in. So if you could kind of talk to what that looks like, that would help a lot of business owners, I think. And then just also, what's realistic from a business standpoint for an intern? You can't be a full-time employee a lot of times.
No. So I think what you're saying is the important part, right? How do we set reasonable expectations? Mm-hmm. So I think of internships really in terms of the duties in two buckets. What are the regular duties that you think an intern could do that you could effectively train them to do? And that you could manage the level of supervision required for that task, right? So this is a repetitive task. They can learn, they can do this, and I can comfortably supervise them, give them the right check-ins until they have a level of mastery. So that's one bucket. Then what are the special projects? What is something that I want to take off my desk that, man, if I could get an intern to do this, it might not be a long time project, but it's something that it can take some focus. Take some focus off my regular, the key responsibilities that I'm doing. And I've always wanted to attack this. So let's say you wanted to, come up with a social media campaign, right? And you're like, I just don't have the time. I'm not really into, Instagram and these other things these other tools, but these young people are digital natives, right? They've grown up with that stuff. So they get it. They understand branding and positioning. They know things that they don't know that they know because it's been so part of their lives. Yeah. So they may not know the terminology, but they understand the concepts. Mm-hmm. And if you start teaching them and talking to them about it, you're like, oh, great, you can do that. Like we had an intern that really did a great social media campaign for it. And when I saw it, I was like, I would never have thought that way, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not also 19 or 20. So I think they think differently and they know how their audience thinks differently. So I think they just bring a little bit more to the environment. So if you just put your, think about it, say, I'm thinking about an intern, what are regular repeated tasks that I think I can give an intern that I can manage and supervise? And maybe what's some special projects that I'm like, I've always wanted to do this thing and I just need somebody who can kind of focus on this for a couple months or something.
So let's go into that a little bit deeper because I know a lot of companies out there that shy away from internships. How easy is it to host an intern?
I think it's as easy as you allow it to be, right? First of all, set the right expectations. Like you said, it's not going to be a full-time employee. Know their level of professionalism and skill, their skill sets, and have the right expectation. Then really think about what is a good job description. A job description that can be taught, that can also be supervised and coached up. When you break it down into those small bite-sized kind of a task, it's very manageable to bring on an intern. They're not that hard to get. There's plenty of strategy. So if I'm somebody that's an engineer, I would go reach out to the local colleges and see their engineering programs, talk to an engineering professor at that department and say, hey, I'm looking for some young people who could do X, Y, and Z. And they may be able to say, oh, I know just the kind of candidates. Let me bring them in, have a meeting with you at our career planning and placement center or have them come to your office. So just thinking about it and just breaking it down in steps, you can really think about how to get a good intern and set up a good internship program because it's not necessarily, sometimes it is the match. Like we all know you can hire employees and it's just a bad match. But sometimes we have to be honest, we didn't set them up for success because we didn't have the right role clearly defined with the right autonomy or the right resources that they would need. And then we need to kind of inspect that in ourselves and say, okay, I need to set them up for success by giving them these things.
Welcome to our Community Connections segment. With us today is Allison Eckel, Deputy Director of the Burlington County Commissioners Board. Her assignments include public safety, resource conservation, which includes parks and farmland preservation, and county schools. We're going to focus on the resource conservation today, Allison. Commissioner, Burlington County has an award-winning farmers market at the Burlington County Agricultural Center, known to people as the Ag Center, right? So let's tell me about the Ag Center. People get married there. There's all kinds of crazy stuff happening there. So tell us about it.
Sure, I'm happy to be here. This is a great idea, Kristi. I'm really glad you guys are doing this. The Agricultural Center in Burlington County is located in Morristown. It's a preserve farm and it's a working farm. And it's a facility where we have a commercial kitchen inside the farmhouse where we can have our parks folks have classes. You want to learn how to cook. I attended a cheese making class there. It was really great. I got to pull my own mozzarella. And it's a great facility for us to engage the community on a number of different functions. There's a community garden there. They can learn how to make their own food, as I said. They can learn how to raise sheep. There's a lot of learning that happens there, and it's a great place. For the past 20 years, we've hosted a farmers market. So we have local farms engaged as well as local businesses. And the farmers market is a great economic development aspect for us because farms are businesses and they need to reach their markets. Some of those farms have farm markets of their own, but they don't all, and they need a place to sell and engage with the local community. We have hyper-local businesses. You know, a couple might make cookies out of their local commercial kitchen and they need a place to sell them. They can come and get a stand at the farmers market. We have our 4-H club and local organizations like that can bring animals, come pet a llama, come pet a bunny. We have live music. The farm market has grown a lot over the past 20 years. We have some vendors who are original to the farm market from 20 years ago, and then we keep growing. Most of them are from Burlington County, but some do come from outside the county and travel because they have a network of markets that they go to, and we're now one of them. And weekly on Saturday mornings, starting the weekend of Mother's Day, going through November. But then we've added, because people have asked, we've added more time. So now we have a pre-market where it's maybe twice a month for several months, starting March, April, post-market through the holiday season so that people can get greenery for their tables and a lot of extra goodies for hosting and entertaining. It's just a great place to come and get what you need for the weekend, discover some new foods, hear some live music. It's a great community center.
Yeah, it's a huge social event, right? I'm a regular there. I should mention that we did give the Farmers Market and the Ag Center a Voice of Business Award this year, our Economics Development Award for what they're doing.
Thank you.
And I saw it, you're welcome. And I saw it firsthand 2 weeks ago when I was there. First generation farmer, veteran. She had her sign up. She was selling strawberries. They were tiny,
It's a rough year for fruit.
It is a rough year for fruit, but she was trying. And I was like, what a great opportunity for this young woman, who served her country, and first generation farmer, female farmer. Like, it was really cool. And it was funny because I had just bought strawberries at another vendor, and my mom goes, "You're buying more strawberries?" I go, "Yes, I am, because I'm going to support this young woman. Like, it's what we do."
Yes, right? Absolutely. And that's awesome. The confluence of so many things here in Burlington County, right? So our preserved farm program, we have the most preserved farmland of any of the counties in New Jersey, and that allows that brings agriculture accessible to a lot of farmers who maybe wouldn't have been able to do it. So we have farmers who are on a list waiting to access preserved farms. We have farms looking to be preserved, and it's a great engine for agriculture and agribusiness in Burlington County. And then you also mentioned veterans. So we have the second highest veteran population of the counties in New Jersey, second, I think, after Ocean. Because
it is after Ocean.
Thank you. Yep. Because the Joint Base is such a good partner for us. And so we love our veterans, and we want to look for opportunities for veterans as they transition out of the military, or maybe they're finding us for the first time, and we make sure that there's opportunity for them and they get access to resources as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you talked a little bit about the market hours, those kind of things. Is it rain or shine?
It is rain or shine. Yeah, there's part of it is covered. We have some tent area where some vendors can be under tents. Of course, they're encouraged to bring their own 10 by 10 pop-ups or whatever those are. But then we do have a building, quote unquote building, because I think it has one or two walls and then it's open on the other sides. But that's a bit of a hard shelter in case it's really nasty weather, but it's rain or shine. Come on out, see it's farms, right? So it's we take the weather and we take the world as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked a little about the artisans, especially foods. You talked a little bit about that, but it's different vendors usually. So tell us how that works. So it's not the same vendor all the time. Tell us a little bit about how the vendors work.
Sure. So some of them are there all the time, and they sign up for that. So they sign up for a dedicated space that they're always going to be in. And some of them say, we can only come once a month. We can only come twice a month. And we have folks on the parks team that arrange that ahead of time. So it's good if you have a favorite vendor, it's good to talk with them. They love people to talk to them about their businesses, of course, and see what their schedule might be. They might have their own websites or social medias, or they might post, which weeks they're going to be there. There's an older gentleman. He's a longtime vendor. He makes brooms by hand. And we saw him several years ago, and my husband's become enamored of this broom maker. And he wants to buy a broom from the broom maker. The gentleman takes cash only, and we didn't have cash that day, and there's no ATM at the farm market. And so for the past 2 years, we've been trying to encounter the broom maker. I could just have the parks folks call him, and but we don't. But we keep going to try and find the broom maker. And we actually just honored him as one of the original vendors at our 20th celebration. And he's pulling back a little bit from making brooms, but that's going to live in my brain for a while. Now I've got to go find a handmade broom for my husband.
There you go.
Father's Day gift.
It's funny, we were talking a little bit about this. So I was there 2 weeks ago, and the local farmer didn't know they had these tomato plants in a pot. I live in a condo.
Yeah.
So I now have a tomato plant on my balcony. Right. And I think it was $5.
Right, yes.
Maybe 10, something like that. But again, cash vendor, make sure you have enough cash. You got to balance yourself between the Venmo and the cash while you're there.
Right. A number of them do take digital and tap, but there is still a thing called cash in this world.
Yeah. Because you can run out fast if you're really shopping and buying and things like that. Let's talk about the special days, peachy parties, tomato day. What's that all about?
Sure. So it's timed with their grow season so that we can focus on when the crop yield is the greatest, and the farms are going to be overrun, right, with peaches or tomatoes farther into the season to make sure that we highlight it. There's specialty foods made with that crop. There's, of course, you can buy just the crop itself and just a celebration of the bounty that we have in Burlington County. So it's good to watch our social media. The county itself has a pretty robust social media presence across the Facebook, Instagram. I know there's not everybody's on it in this day and age, but it is a great place to find information about what your local government is doing. And the parks folks have their own social media too, to find when those special days are going to be in the calendar. And they're pretty repeatable year after year, but it's a great time to come out and celebrate. So you can get peaches, you can get tomatoes, you can get melons on those special days.
That's awesome. I happen to subscribe to the It's Market Day email that comes out every Friday.
Hey, there you go.
And it tells me what vendors are coming. And
Email's still there, right?
And
this is for businesses, so email marketing is still alive.
It's still very much alive, yeah. Yeah, but I love it because it'll tell me what the special day is. It'll tell me if there's, what vendors, if I'm looking for, a particular vendor or something like that. And we'll make sure we tell our viewers how to sign up for that as well.
So I have to sign up for that.
You have to sign up for that, yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm guilty. I've never been to the farmer's market. And I go to Costco pretty much
so
every
close by.
So that's what I'm saying. That there's
Yes.
probably a lot of people like me who go to Costco every weekend and have never been to the farmer's market. So what should I should go to the farmer's market first before I go to Costco, but what should I not buy at Costco that I could pick up at the farmer's market?
So in that case, I'm not sure. I want you to be able to buy your produce at the farmer's market, of course, but I know Costco has a yield thing going on, right? So the bulk at Costco might win out in the end. So the farmer's market, of course, has food, and we have a growing number of vendors who are making food on site. So you can get, of course, coffee, cakes, and breakfast breads and that sort of thing. A number of gluten-free sweet treats that are there also. Empanadas, or the empanada person, the pierogi person, very popular. So it's also become a brunch location a lot of times too. So people will come and they'll eat their way through the market or get a lot of foods to take away. There's coffee vendors there. There's a tea vendor. There's other lunch type foods to get there. So maybe not the Costco hot dog, but maybe plan what to eat at the farm market.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, the other part of that too is, as the commissioner said a little earlier, whatever's in season, right? So they tend to have an abundance of it.
Yeah.
So when I was there 2 weeks ago, I got greens. I got microgreens, which I've never tried before, and I love them. I put them on my little burrata, and I was like, oh, this is a nice little treat. But so it's really kind of like what's in season, because I yelled at my mom because she's like, I just went grocery shopping on Friday. I go, you go grocery shopping after you come here.
Yeah.
You see what you can get that's fresh.
Yes.
Pretty much pesticide free for the most part, because it's all farm grown, local, that kind of stuff. Pretty good stuff. And I go, you buy this stuff first.
Yeah.
So the key is changing the routine. You got to go to the farmer's market and then go.
Yeah, you go to the farmer's market, and then whatever you don't have,
Right.
whatever they don't have, that you can pick up later. But
There's locally grown eggs, the locally laid eggs. There's artisan cheeses. There's a granola lady.
I just got the granola for the first time.
The granola is great, right? And she has it in she can get the large one in a jar, and if you bring the jar back, you get a discount on your refill. And the granolas have different elements in it, and a little bit of craisins, lots of different things. And we eat Greek yogurt in the morning, so it's great with granola, like Greek yogurt, and some local honey. There's local honey vendors there. Local honey is good for your allergies, right? Yes, exactly. Right. As we moved out of tree pollen season and we're in grass season, and then August and September brings in other things, and so you want to be up on that a little bit.
We should also mention there's usually a nonprofit there too that's promoting themselves. I know My Family's Bible Toys for Tots, and in July, at Christmas in July, they're usually there collecting toys. So the market really does give back to our nonprofits as well.
It does. We have a little bit of limited space, so I would love to say we'll take any nonprofit that wants to have a table there, but we're a little limited on space. But we do try to showcase some of the folks doing good works in the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Commissioner, what is your favorite part of the market?
That's a great question. I think the energy is the favorite part of the market. The people who come and love it and talk about it, and they come and they've made it a regular routine, and lots of people from outside the county come to it as well as shoppers. And then they get to discover a part of Burlington County that they didn't know about before. And it's in Morristown, which is not necessarily known. They have farms, but it's not known as an agricultural center. Typically, we would think more about farther out in the reaches of Burlington County for the farms. And it's nearby, as you say, Costco and a shopping center. It's near Lockheed Martin. So it doesn't come to mind right off the bat as what it is, a preserve farm and a center of agricultural education. And it's great for bringing people in and showing what we have and what we can do. I just love to go and be there and just see smiles on people's faces as they go and visit their regular people, or the pierogies sold out or something like that. And it's just sort of recenters. It's a great way for me to launch a busy day in Burlington County, because we're the largest county in New Jersey physically. And a Saturday for us could be a lot of driving. So we could start out at the farmers market, get centered on the energy, and then deploy out to lots of different activities, community centers, churches, ribbon cuttings, mosques, all kinds of 5K races, and just be out and seeing all that Burlington County is, starting at the farmers market.
Yeah, I've seen it grow. Obviously over the years, I've been a Burlington County resident for most of my life, and I've seen that grow. And it's funny now to watch the people sitting there, like you said, eating lunch, listening to the music, all the things that are going on there. It's really a cool experience. It's a very cool experience. And as we mentioned, you can certainly sign up for the on the website for the newsletter and find out what's coming up, every weekend there, but very cool. So beyond the Ag Center, let's switch as we wrap up. Let's talk about the amazing parks and the great events that happen in Burlington County as well. So how many parks? How do I find out about them? Tell me about the fantastic parks in Burlington County.
We have a great park system. We're the envy of a lot of our county neighbors, which I get to interface with my opposite numbers in South Jersey on a very regular basis, and they might get a little annoyed by me saying that. But we do have a great park system, and shout out to our parks team for doing that. We have a system. We have an app. So that's the good news, is that for those of you who have smartphones, we have the Burlington County Park System has an app where you can access each of the parks, a park trail map. You can see where all the comfort stations are if you need to go to the bathroom, where the benches are, how to park, and all of our parks have Wi-Fi. So you can continue to use that app and see how you can connect with emergency services if you need it, or whatever you need. So the good news there is they're very accessible. A lot of them have accessible trails, so that if you're not just bipedal, if you have wheels, if you have whatever you need, you can get out and enjoy nature. That's been a priority of ours, is that we invest in our parks so that as most people as possible can use them. And we have our very first park in the county was Smithville. So Smithville Mansion goes back to our industrial roots as a county, and 50 years ago, it became our first park. It's a great historic mansion. It has a great facility in its fields, and it's got a ball field and trails, and it has a waterway so that we have a canoe launch outside of Smithville, and it has the home for a number of different museums, including the Underground Railroad, which is not a county-run museum, but they have a home there. So it's a great location for people to get out and explore passively and just find out what you want to do on a weekend. But we also host a number of very popular festivals at Smithville throughout the calendar year. 4 to 6 festivals, right. We have Mayfair just happened a few weeks ago. In the spring, we have Arts After Dark. They each have a bit of a different personality to them, but they all try to include a number of vendors from the business community, reenactors and theater groups to have a great experience, an arts component. We'll have a nonprofit that maybe can run a beer tent, some live music. It's just a great place for people to come. It's free for the public to attend. We also host, that's one of our new locations for our summer concert series, that we offer a free concert series in the summer that is at the amphitheater in West Hampton next to the public library. But we have a few bands that have quite a bit bigger following, and the amphitheater is not quite big enough. So when that's not quite big enough, we move them to the field at Smithville so that they can draw more people in. I think we had Fearless last year as a Taylor Swift tribute band, and they definitely needed a little more space than the amphitheater could provide.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place. And you mentioned the canoe launch. People don't realize that you can put in a kayak or a canoe, go down to Pemberton. It's a great, Burlington County has so many hidden gems. It really does.
Yes, just a note about that. That is canoe at your own risk.
Oh, you're right.
Yes. Yeah, we do not.
Great job.
We do not monitor that. Yeah.
Arnie's Mount Park, the new one.
Thank you. Yes, Arnie's Mount is the tallest point in Burlington County in terms of elevation, and so if you need to get your steps in by doing elevation, Arnie's Mount out by Springfield is a great place to do that. And speaking of Arnie's Mount, it has a troll,
Right.
And so Hainesport has a park that has a troll. The original troll in Burlington County was not ours. Thomas Dambo is a Scandinavian artist who brought and built Big Rusty in Hainesport, a 20-something foot tall troll made out of scrap and found material, and she's really great, and I really encourage anybody to go and check her out. And that inspired us to create the Troll Trek, which was we had some grants from the state that we could pass along to local artists and groups to create trolls in the spirit of Big Rusty. And they're much smaller. They're 4, 5, 6 feet tall, something like that, out of their own found materials and upcycled items. And there's more than a dozen, 18 of them, I think, scattered around the county. One of them's at Arnie's Mount. A couple of them have moved from their original locations. There were 2 at Smithville. Those have been rehoused in some of our parks. But they're part of the Troll Trek, and that can be found on our county website. There might be a link on our Parks app as well, but it's definitely on our Parks page of our website to find. It's a great thing to do with families if you have after you go to the farmer's market, after you go to Costco. Go walk around a little bit and find which troll can we find now. We found Arnie's Mount, we found Rainbow Meadow, we found different parks. Some of them are downtown, so that we were careful to spread it out. There wasn't always park locations. We wanted to bring people to downtown centers and all the vast different places that we have in Burlington County. But it's really cool to go and see how different objects in everyday life have been reimagined as part of this character, and the characters have names and they might have some backstories. It's really cool.
That's very cool. Very cool. So are our parks dog friendly?
Yes, parks are dog friendly. Of course, you want to be people friendly too. So we encourage dogs to be, answer to their owners, be well behaved. That you can bring them to the farmers market. We'd like them to be on the leash, and so that everybody feels safe along with your pet. There is a vendor at the farmers market who sells dog treats.
Yes,
they're always inside under the cover in the building,
yes,
in the back corner. And there are dogs who know exactly where that vendor is, and they will go each time. That's always fun to see.
That's awesome. Yeah, but it's great to see the farmers market. It's all ages. It's all different walks of life from Burlington County there. Like you said, the energy is amazing.
It is.
Burlington County is a great parks and rec system, so thank you for putting your energy into that. As we wrap up our segment today, is there anything else you'd like to add about parks and recreation and summer events or fall events or anything else going on?
It's a privilege of mine to be able to be a steward of the energy we put into the park system. As a commissioner, we get to have a positive impact on the quality of life for nearly 500,000 people in the largest physical county in New Jersey. And that we sort of sit in the middle of a lot of things. We don't make laws necessarily, but we have a positive impact on how taxes and resources get shared. And we get to work with our municipal partners and our state partners to make sure that's all working. And the parks is where that kind of really gels, because we get to say, outdoor experiences are vital to public health, and how can we make that work for the greatest number of people possible? And that's been a privilege of mine to be able to work with our professionals in the park system to make sure that's working for people in Burlington County and beyond.
Welcome to the Business Spotlight segment of the South Jersey Business Connect podcast. Our guest is Sandra Sciacca, president of Sciacca's Upholstery and Design Center in Delran, New Jersey. Sandra, I understand that you are a 3rd generation and are currently working on a 4th generation. Tell me how the business started.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me here today, first of all. Yes, I am third generation, and we have our fourth generation, which is my nephew in the business as well at the moment, and started way back in 1944 with my grandparents, Rose and Lou. Yes, so
How did they start that?
they started very small, just the two of them, one sewing machine in their basement at the very, very beginning, then to the garage, then to a built building a few years later, and still just the two of them for a good, I think, 10 years, the first 10 years or so. Then after that, in the bigger building, brought in a few people, and it grew, continued to grow. My father, my mother worked there since we were all very little. We literally grew up in the shop, and Kristi loves this part of the story because we used to play under the cutting tables. There was no daycare for us, so we played literally in the shop. So yeah, that was back then. That was my parents were working there. My grandparents were, still actively working. And then as they aged, retired, my parents were there. We were there. At that point is just about when Paul came in, my husband, and we were about to get married, and my dad gave him an opportunity to continue in the path that he was in, which was a totally different business, or learn a craft and learn the talent and become part of the business. And he chose that, which was good. So that's where we are now. But my parents continued to work until they were at retirement age, and that was like in the early 80s, mid 80s, I'll say, probably. And a few years after that, they retired. We were fully in charge, and that's when things started to grow even more, even in between that middle generation. We brought in a few more people, moved to a bigger space, pretty much tripled our square footage, and the quantity of work that we did and the variety of work that we did grew exponentially. Brought in some outside salespeople, that brought in a whole new element of what we do. In terms of like what we do, it's residential primarily, contract, commercial, and that type of thing. And then we work with local designers as well that will bring in the portion of the work that we can do for their projects, whether it's winter treatments, upholstery, custom made things like that. So we have a nice variety of where the work actually comes from, and steadily through the year, I'll say.
Sandra, was it natural for you? You said you grew up playing underneath of the cutting tables. I mean, was it natural for you to like pick up the scissors and go to the sewing machine?
We were I do recall that probably 6, 7-ish, taking scraps of fabric, and we were allowed to make Barbie clothes out of the scraps of fabric. So like we would, just to keep busy, you're doing, whatever. And then we, probably way before 10 years old, we were able to use the sewing machines as well. So we'd make our Barbie doll, clothes and things like that, and then the little things. And it literally just evolved. I have to always think back because it just happened. Like it wasn't like, oh, today you're going to learn to make buttons, or today you're going to learn to do this machine, and you're 12 years old, and but it just happened, and it's how we grew up, and I don't know. I don't know whether any other world or how any other situation happens like in another family business, but that's how it was. It was just like...
It's a testament to your parents and grandparents for keeping you interested in that business.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids would go the other way.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have 3 sisters. That'll be 2 older ones would kind of hang around and do the same thing because we were there. The youngest one was a baby, and she would be with my grandma, which wasn't in the shop. So she was much younger. So the other 2 older ones, they were in kind of doing the same thing. Just doing what they can, or, small projects. My mom would say, oh, file these papers, or, sweep this up or clean this up, or whatever it is. But we would just literally be there, and it was just like absorbing everything every day.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. So how you mentioned you have like a network of people who refer you business, but who is your typical client? Are you doing remodels? Are you doing like, hey, I just want to refresh my interior in my room? Like, what does it look like for you guys?
So there's not a typical one, but in the groups of the types of work that we do in the residential, it's definitely, local. Burlington, Camden, Gloucester County is, I'll say, local for us. And upholstery projects, major reno remodels, window treatments, anybody who has, a project going on, whether it's small or large, it's definitely always important to us. The commercial projects, they also are a nice source for us because they kind of come through the year and sporadically, and sometimes I don't hear from somebody for maybe 3 times a year, but they're big projects, that they'll come in from, like, say, Drexel, or from one of the hospitals, through one of our other contract connections. So the shop is big enough that we can facilitate those type of products and make sure we hit the timelines and do everything that we need to do to make that project 100% smooth. And that's a part of that segment. So everything kind of comes and goes. And the designers that we work with, again, they're working with clients that they're doing multiple things for, bringing to us the portion of the projects that we can do for them, which is either custom built ottomans or furniture or window treatments that they're designing. It's that they need somebody to actually fabricate. That's all what we can do there.
And how do you guys feel like you differentiate yourselves from everybody else that's out there?
Well, service. And that's what you get from us. 100%. You get 150% from me every day, no matter what it is. Again, somebody comes in with, a set of dining room seats. That's great. I love it. Somebody walks in and says, I just bought a whole new house, but it needs a complete remodel. I love that too. So
is there anything outside of just being around the business all the time that drove you to want to continue this?
It's almost unexplainable. Like I said, only because it's all I've ever known. I've grown up with it. I did, for a brief period of my time when I was in college, think I was going to go in a slightly different direction. I think within 2 years, I decided that was not my path. I was going to come back to stay into the business and continue to work and plan the taking, when it was my time to take it over. So, yeah, it was just a very natural thing.
I want to follow up on that, right? Because it's one thing from learning how to sew and do it and the cutting and all that stuff to, like, I now own the business and I manage the business and I've got employees. And what did your parents do to kind of prepare you and Paul really to take over and manage that?
That's a big question. Yes, I did learn all the basics of what it is. That's not what I'm the best at. I know how to put things together. I know how to cut things, prepare it for a seamstress, which I do a lot of. But I don't physically, do upholstery or the sewing part of it. We have people who are the best at that. I'm now more front and sales, production or coordination, organization, what's coming in, whose due dates, this, that, when it's got to come in, when it's got to go, that type of thing. But the whole thing about learning it and how you prepare for it, it's a little bit of, I'll say the school of hard knocks, right?
Yeah. Trial by fire, yeah.
Yes, sometimes. But mostly it's, we learned a lot by just watching, being part of it when we were there and younger, and they were still running everything and seeing, you see the highs and lows. Every business has it. You got the mountains, you got the valleys. It happens. And how do you survive when you're here, when you want to be up there? So you got to adjust a little sometimes. But
it's good perspective.
Absolutely. It happens.
And you probably I always have something inside of me that gives me direction, not only in my business, but in my life. It sounds like you had something inside of you telling
my Nana.
Yeah. whatever you put your name. to it,
Anybody
it's
who ever had the
something.
chance of knowing her,
Yeah.
that's what, yeah.
And then Nana was strong enough to bring Paul into the business. So let's talk about that. How did Paul get involved?
Yeah. Well, we went in college, and like I said, he had a completely different path where he was headed, and we were, engaged in a year from a wedding or so, and my dad just, he would talk to him every now and then. He, of course, knew everything we were doing in the shop, and he just said, don't want to do what you're doing, because his job would have made him travel quite a bit with what he was doing. And I was like, I don't really want to be alone 3 weeks a month, I'll be living in a big old house with nothing, and you're out there, working. So he said, it took a while for him to come around and figure out, I can do this, So my dad brought him in. He said, give it a shot, just see how it goes. And he picks, he's very talented, knowledgeable of tools, and can think things through, how they have to look and how they have to go together and things like that. So it was a natural. He was a quick learner. Good. And he decided that was where he was going to go, and drop the other career.
Very cool. So a natural.
Although when you ask him, he'll say that your father made me an offer I couldn't see through to. Like, I don't know what that is, and I don't want to be a part of it. So I don't know.
There we go. So the business has expanded, obviously, over the years. Were you always in Delran?
We started in Riverside, and literally in the small building that my grandparents created in the 50s, I think, late 50s, they built that building. We're there for quite a long time, and probably in our bigger space now, going on 12 years. So yeah, our one unit's a little over 5,000 square foot, and then the secondary unit that I have is a little over 3,000 square foot, which really was a gain from the other businesses that we bought.
Got it.
In 2017 and 2020. So we gained that space specifically for those things.
Right, so you can naturally move into there.
Yeah, we needed some more space for more equipment and more space for that.
Yeah, so you have a pretty nice sized building right there off of 130. So good location for the business. And so talk about that expansion. Like, what was that? I remember when you and Paul announced that you bought that other business.
Yes.
And I could see it in your face. It's like, oh my God, like, what did we just do? But here you are.
Honestly, yes. And that's a story there for sure. 2017, we get many trade magazines, as you can imagine. And so in one of the back of the trade magazines with a tiny little ad that we now have framed in the office that led us to this great path that we're on, and a tremendous opportunity. Couple wanting to sell a licensed upholstery business for a specific brand of boats, to produce upholstery for that company. And tiniest little vaguest ad you ever could imagine. So I emailed, and he came out with this. First of all, I was sitting outside, and he said, "Look at this ad." And he's like, "What do you think? Is this like a next step for us?" And I said, "Maybe." I go, "What do you think?" He goes, "It's a little vague. Let's email." I said, "It says email for information. Let's email for information." I mean, that's how we do things. Okay, boom, email. Next day, we get a reply. "Okay, so you're interested, yes." So we asked some questions and, go through several other emails to find out that it's a company that's based down in Florida, has the license to produce for Nautique and Correctcraft, which is a major international wakeboard boat manufacturer. And this company held the license to produce the upholstery for them and make their logos and such. So it was something a little bit out of our zone, but not really out far our zone. But he said, "I think this is where we grow. Let's do this." And I said, "Okay, let's do this." So we went and made a time to go down, meet with the people. Very nice older couple looking to retire. They had done it for almost 30 years themselves, and came back home after that first meeting, and I was still 50-50, and he was like, "I don't know, I feel like it's okay." And I was like, "I'm 50-50, I don't know. It's a lot. It's an investment, but that's where we need to go." That's his mind. And I was like, "It's fine. I get where, we need to go. We need to grow. We need to add on to some things here." So booked another flight back down, talked a little more down and dirty on the business, got the whole team of, lawyers and accountants on board to advise. And about a month later, made settlement. And then everything went from there. Right. Yeah. So, and that business, from what they produced, they were only one couple, 2 sewing machines, small little shop shed in their backyard, which was amazing what they pumped out of there. But in, I want to say, less than 4 years, we tripled their business, dollars, in what we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Sean, and I'm Paul, I've been there, you got machines, you're not doing all this by hand like the couple was.
Specialty machines, the embroidery machines for their logos.
Capacity to triple, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
and we had a bigger staff than just them 2 working.
And I don't think people realize that this now has changed your business into an international business.
Yes.
Right? You're selling to people. I remember talking to Paul, I think it was someone from Switzerland. He's like, my phone rang at 3 o'clock in the morning because it was whatever time.
My phone is on, constantly. And the blinging and all this stuff, because we do have 7 international dealers.
Yep.
So, so providing for them as they need for different things. And many dealers within our country, probably over a couple dozen of them, plus all the private people that just, ordering it independently. So that's a nonstop business. And like I said, we've exceeded 4 times, we exceeded that first acceleration of sales to a great number now because of the kind of service that we provide. And, everybody's just really, it's like a little cult of people that have these boats that renovate a lot of the older ones. And they're, not that they're not buying the new ones, they are, but people that have these older ones just renovate, refurbish, and,
Hey, they run, why buy new ones?
Yeah, it's a group of their own, I'll say.
It's good.
Yes.
So let's switch gears a little
Yes.
bit. One thing I guess a lot of people probably don't know about you and Paul is how involved you are in the community, because you do a lot, but you're very quiet about it. So let's talk about that. Why is that important for the both of you to be involved?
It's definitely important. I mean, because that's, we both grew up locally, and what we have chosen to do and give whenever is needed.
Yep.
That's important. You give back to where you live. You're, whether it's either, close to where he grew up or where we are now, which is like, that whole zone. I think the connection to the community really is priceless, honestly, for anything that we do. Being in Riverside Business Association for 20 plus years, Delran, now being probably going on our 20th year at Chamber, I think this year, close to it.
Yeah, close.
I mean, the involvement in things like that make a big difference.
Yep. And you make a big difference, especially at the Chamber.
Yeah, absolutely. And when any of our local first responders, the fire company reaches out, we're always taking care of the stuff they need done. We just did some things for the Coast Guard, which, again, that was something that was very unique. But when they reach out, they need something, they know.
Great example to just show people how you can help with
Absolutely.
that.
We're always the first ones to jump in. If anybody needs anything for that. Yeah.
Great. So let's wrap up here. What's one thing you want the South Jersey business community to know about your business?
When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, what am I saying about that one? But I feel like if I had to boil it down, and it's very difficult for me, is what do we offer? What's our value? And it has to do with a couple different things, but like what we do is very unique. And our customer education to our customers about your furniture, just to say, your furniture in general. Is it great furniture? Is it quality furniture? Is it something I'm going to do? Are you of the disposable furniture generation? That type of thing. So value to, like, knowing the value of what you have and the value of what we can provide when it makes sense for us to work together.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. I think, the answer could be 12 other things for sure.
Right.
But like, I feel like that's when people are on the fence about I have this, but I don't know if it's worth it. Well, I'm going to tell you
Right.
from the get-go whether it is and why or why not,
Yep.
and that's how it'll be.
Yeah.
So
Sandra, you're nailing it on the head there, right there. It's your value is you and Paul, really, and that
And
small
they have high integrity.
Yeah, your integrity, your commitment. Brian touched on your commitment to the community. People forget that they do business with people.
Yes.
It's not, they could go to someone else with a sewing machine, but the integrity, the quality, the commitment to the community, which is why we really wanted you to kick off our first, episode with us. 80 plus years in business in the community, carrying on a family legacy,
People understood what that even, like, again, I'll speak to what I see at Exact, right? I'm 22 years in business. I've seen a lot of companies, and I've seen a lot of second generations wreck their parents' company, and to go through 3 and now 4 generations.
yeah, the percentages get smaller and smaller.
Every
how it lasts.
generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the awareness that you have just going into that with your nephew is going to be good, because you're going to be kind of with that awareness saying, hey, you got to live to this standard or it's not going to work out, right?
Absolutely.
So,
That's important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I think about your grandparents probably wrote on a little book somewhere their ledger and everything, and now digitized. They can go. People can.
You are so right.
Look
And
at your showroom.
I have those books.
Yeah, but now you've got a website. You can look at your showroom online. You can do things like that. Your grandfather probably went to somebody's house with swatches, right? That was back in the day.
Notebooks that are chicken scratch handwriting, and receipts that he would handwrite for whatever it is. And and the samples were not in fancy dancy books in our studio the way we have them now. They were just little swatches on a ring, and you had very little to pick from. Not the thousands that I have in the studio at the moment, but things have come a long way.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for tuning in to South Jersey Business Connect, a monthly podcast promoting businesses, community support, community activities here in Burlington County and beyond. Special thank you to Exact IT Solutions and my co-host Bryan Hornung for being our sponsor this year, and of course the great folks here at Blue Light Music Studios and Blue Light Digital Studios, our official podcast partner.